I would like to welcome everyone. What a thrilling turnout. We've had a lot of meetings this month. And so you're all applauded for coming to yet another one. But this is a very important one because this is our actual trustees meeting. The others were a lead up to our trustees meeting. And it's especially fitting that it's International Women's Day. And I think, Pam, do you have an image you were sharing?
I'm going to start with that. Yep. So hello, everyone. Welcome to International Women's Day. It's so fitting that we're having this meeting today on March 8th. I just found this lovely graphic online, and I just love the fact that it's women in a circle because we are a women's giving circle. And so I thought it was very appropriate for us. Now that we've acknowledged that it's International Women's Day, let me just set a few guidelines for today's meeting. If you could please mute yourself and keep yourself muted. Please use the chat liberally if you want to ask questions or comment there, and raise your hand either in the screen or using the reaction if you have something that you want to contribute, and we will call on you just that we can keep the meeting flowing and keep to our timetable because as you know, we have a special presentation at the end of the evening and we want to be able to get to that. Okay, and with that, we move on to a special tribute today. Carol.
Okay, so I want to pay tribute to Maxine Myers, a dear friend of all of us who passed away on April 28th, 2021, leaving a legacy of deep devotion and impressive contributions to the Metro West community, Israel, and the Jewish people. Maxine was a founding member of our Jewish Women's Foundation and an extremely generous donor to our 10th anniversary fundraising campaign. She was also a founding member of the Rachel Coalition and a longstanding trustee of and volunteer with the Jewish Family Service of Metro West, which will be remembering her legacy at its June 1st Evening of Laughter by naming the Maxine Myers JFS Volunteer Services Department in her honor. Maxine was also a champion fundraiser for many other causes and an effective advocate for people with disabilities. She was predeceased by an adopted daughter and is survived by 3 sons, Mark of Arlington, Virginia, Asher of Efrat, Israel, and Rabbi Baruch, the chief rabbi of Bratislava, Slovenia, 20 grandchildren and 13 great-grandchildren, all of whom adored her, as do we.
She was a very special person, and she was very willing to share her knowledge of what was happening in the Jewish milieu with anybody who asked her anything.
Yes. And we miss her.
Yes.
So, Jane, Judy, you're on mute.
Judy?
Judy, you're on mute. Judy.
Unmute.
Okay.
Okay. Welcome. So you haven't heard from me yet. Welcome. And let's, the next order of business is to vote to accept the minutes from the prior trustee meeting with a poll. So I guess is not a motion. So the poll is, I vote to accept the minutes of the December 2021 trustee meeting. Please raise your hand.
No, we're doing it as a poll.
Yeah, and we have to do a motion, right?
You have to do a motion first.
Oh, then we do have to, all right, who makes a motion to accept the minutes of the December meeting? Okay, Susan, you're on.
Second,
Okay,
Julie.
all right, so let's, oh, I see, do it that way. Oh, right, I vote to, how nice.
So efficient. It's in the poll. On the chat. technology queens.
Okay, and by my count, there are 28 women present who can vote, so I need to see all 28 have voted before I can close the poll. Okay, we're still waiting on votes from 2 people.
Did you get my vote? It wasn't sure. It was in the,
Oh, it was in
when I first logged in.
the chat. Okay.
Hold on.
I had technical difficulties, so
Okay, so if you have technical difficulties, then you can respond to me in the chat for any of these votes. Right now, we have 26, which is a majority vote anyway, so we can end this poll and continue on. But you can respond to me in the chat if you have any technical difficulties tonight, okay?
Okay, thank you then. I think it's done. Okay. And next, so we're done, we're finished with that?
Next.
Okay. Betty, I'm going to call on you, please, for a membership report.
Okay, hi, everybody. For those that haven't met me in person, I'm Betty Murphy. And on my screen, 2 boxes down is Lizzie Katz. Lizzie, raise your shake and all of that, that adorable blonde girl. That is my co-chair of membership, and I'm delighted to have her. We currently have 43 paid annual members and 3 lifetime or legacy members for fiscal year 2021 to 22. But we do have 6 new members who have joined, and since January 21, and since January 2022. So we are off to a rousing start. We did have lots of we had several members who moved to Florida, et cetera, but I think we will be up into the mid-50s by the end of this fiscal year, the fiscal year of 2023. The new cohort of 6 so far have joined now, and as our tradition is, they will be the cohort of 2022-23. That is July till next June, but they are members. They've paid up and paid their dues and done their pledges, so they will be voting, and we're very thrilled to have them. I can give you the list of our new members, and those that are here can wave at us.
I see my sister-in-law on there. Can I welcome her?
Yeah,
My sister-in-law, Michelle Becker.
Michelle Becker, Lisa Becker, Josie Harris, who's not on, Pam Ravid, Emily Goldberg.
where's Emily? Oh,
Emily is not on, but those people have jumped right in, and we are extremely excited. Lizzie and I are planning a second new member, prospective member event called a Lunch and Learn About the JWF on April 28th at 11:30. So any member who has a woman who you think would enjoy becoming a member, or at least learning about us, please text me their name or email me their name and their contact information, and we will send them an invitation to come and have a little lunch and learn about the JWF. A conservative projection, as I mentioned earlier, is a total of 8 new members in 2022, but I feel quite confident that we are going to be well past that. We have gained wonderful momentum. Pam Greenwood, our new executive director, has been bringing us up to a new level in efficiency and IT, sharing screens, etc. Hope we don't have to do that too much longer, and that we can be meeting in person very soon. Total estimated membership revenue in the next fiscal year from current members is $63,500, and the total estimated membership revenue of 2022-23 with addition of new members after July is approximately 70,000. And I think we'll probably do better than that, but I am the forever optimist. So welcome to people that I love and have already known, and those that I'm going to love as we move forward.
Right.
Betty, someone just wrote in the chat, do we know where the lunch will be? Are we doing that at your house or?
The plan is that I'd love people to come and see my new apartment. So unless we have more than a certain number, right now it's going to be in Verona at the Claridge, and I will pay all the valet parking. Nobody has to worry about the tips.
Okay, thank you so much. That was wonderful. And now,
Pleasure.
yes,
Betty,
Uh,
that's very nice of you to host that.
Yes,
Oh.
thank you.
Pleasure. Lizzie held a beautiful coffee a couple of weeks ago, and lunch. We had a great time.
And it was so,
smiling was great, but almost everybody joined who came. Something was right. She put something in the coffee. I don't know what, anyway, it was great. So now we go on. The next is to Susan. Susan present, nominating committee, please.
Hi, everybody. This is exciting that not everybody fits on one screen. Lovely to see so many old and new faces. Familiar, not old. Anyway, as a past co-chair, I have the role of heading up nominating, and we conferred with all of the past co-chairs and co-chairs, and unanimously one name rose to the top, and that was Linda Sterling, who has been a rock star with our grants committee the past few years. She brings to us a wealth of both professional and nonprofit expertise, both as a marketing executive at EMI Records and Tiffany's and Pepsi. And she also is a very, very devoted and engaged Duke alum. She's been involved with Volunteer Lawyers for Justice, which is an organization that we have provided grants to, and she was honored by that organization. She's also been committed to the charter school program for many, many years. And the combination of all those things really add up to one great leader. So we would love to have your support in affirming Linda as the incoming co-chair, and she will work with Judy and for the coming year. And then we will choose a new co-chair for her the following year after. So do I have someone to first that Julie, and a second, please? I'll take Debbie. And then all in favor, please just, I guess, raise your hand, or do we have a poll, Pam? Oh, we have a poll.
We have a poll.
Look at that.
Oh,
So fancy. Okay,
love it.
great.
When we're on two screens, it's really hard to count all those hands up.
Exactly.
it's so exciting that we're on two screens.
Excellent. And Linda gets 100% of the vote.
Beautiful.
Congratulations.
Great. Linda, do you want to just say anything quickly before we go on with the agenda? Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you for such a nice presentation, Susan. I look forward to working with all of you. It's been a great 2 years, and I just am really excited about this whole group and where we're going. So thank you for that vote of confidence.
Okay, I would.
I just want to say it's a good thing we voted 100% because we never vote with the nominee in the room.
Oh, that's. Well, there's no room.
Just saying 100%.
Okay. Good
It was
point.
an anonymous poll, so.
Good point.
Exactly. True. Exactly.
That's
You don't
true.
need, right.
Very true.
It's an anonymous, right. Good. Excellent point, Carol.
Yeah.
So the next important order of business is the budget report and vote. And I'd like to call on our Budget Committee Chair, Jean Mandel.
Hi, everybody. So this year we have started something new. We actually have put together a finance committee with Rachel Schwartz and Susan Bamberg. So it's really exciting to have working on finance be a group effort, and addition to working on just evaluating where our funds are and how things are going in the market. We also put together a budget subcommittee, including Rachel, Susan and Laura Albert. So something very new this year that's really exciting. So I just wanted to share with you, you've gotten some information, I'm sure that you've read it, but I just wanted to share a little bit about where we've been and what we've done. Historically, JWF has gifted out approximately 1.2 million, and we've given grants to approximately 70 organizations. And that 1.2 million is actually higher than the value of our funds. We had been gifting out approximately 11 to 12% of our fund every year. And since we're a donor advised fund, we don't really have any obligation to give out any particular amount. 5% is a target that foundations use. So the donations that we get in, each of us make a donation to the Jewish Women's Foundation. Those donations equal approximately our annual expenses. And our annual expenses are really quite minimal. They are to cover our executive director, administration of the investment of the funds and keeping track of paying out the grants, that sort of thing. In 2021, because of COVID, we had granted out $210,000. We had made a decision to give out $160,000 for large grants, $10,000 for small grants, and we allocated an additional $40,000 for COVID. And that level of giving is quite high and not sustainable. For 2021, 2022, we granted out, we had a target of giving out $115,000, $100,000 for large grants, $10,000 for small grants, and we allocated $5,000 for an Israel grant. So that just gives you some context in terms of what we've done in the past. When we met as a finance committee, we were concerned about coming into this year that markets were pretty choppy for supply chain issues, low interest rates, higher inflation. And overlaid with that is what's happening in the Ukraine. That terrible humanitarian tragedy is also creating some serious concerns for the economy, both here at home in the markets and really globally. We are very, very interconnected. So it's a tragedy on so many levels, and really the markets are very concerned about what's going on. I expect that we will continue to see very choppy markets for the next few months, probably, some significant pullbacks, some days when the market takes a breath and goes up, but really expect to see chop for the foreseeable future. So something that we hadn't really done in the past in terms of budgeting is we had typically chosen a number to grant out and then put together the budget afterwards. So which is really kind of backwards. So what we're doing now is really coming up with a target number for granting, and then including that in the budget, not deciding on the budget afterwards. So we're interweaving the processes. So for this year, the Finance Committee is recommending that we grant out $85,000, which would mean $75,000 for large grants and $10,000 for small grants. The fiscal years get a little bit confusing. So what we're talking about is this dollar amount would be for large grants would be allocated out at our next meeting, at the June meeting, and then paid out starting July 1st of 2022 into June of 2023. So it would cover that period. Now, Betty and Lizzie had wonderful news about membership. So if we continue to grow our membership numbers, that's going to impact our ability to increase the funds, but also we'll have to keep a close eye on how the markets are doing. And as I said before, that's really uncertain. So that's a little backdrop in terms of what we're thinking in terms of grant amounts for this year. And there was a budget that I think went out to everybody. So I'll stop there. I see Panina. You're the first hand I see up, Panina. So why don't you go ahead with your question?
Okay, so I'm just a little confused. I should know this by now. So if the money that we're going to approve tonight is going to go out July 1 or thereafter of 2022, did the budgeted amount of 75, or I think we might have granted out a little bit more, did that already go out in this fiscal year? Because we approved grants last June and paid out. So we're voting technically, the voting seems a little weird to me because we're going to approve.
Let me explain it. It's complicated. I sometimes have to take a deep breath and get it right myself.
Okay.
The fiscal year thing it tends to be a little wrinkly, but what we are voting on tonight is we are making a decision about the money that we are going to give out in our June meeting. So in 3 months, in June when we meet, the dollar amount that we decide on today is the amount that's going to go out. That amount's going to be paid out throughout the rest of this year and next year. Because our fiscal year ends in June, it's complicated. So for this current year, the year that we're in right now, which is 21-22, we've granted out 110,000. Not all that's been paid yet, but throughout the year that'll be paid, even if it overlaps fiscal year, it belongs to 21-22. So it's kind of irrelevant when it actually, when the check actually goes out. But that money was approved and that's what's going out. What we're doing is going forward, we've already decided on 10,000 for small grants, that's done. But what we're saying is that for the large grant cycle, we give out 75,000.
But can I ask then for 22-23, could we have this conversation at the beginning of our year so that when we send out applications for grants, we know the dollar amount that we're going to give to organizations? Because this is very backwards then. We've already told organizations they've applied to us for up to $25,000. So could we have this conversation for next year, now that we have Pam on board, more like September? So then we
here's the issue. Here's the issue. It's very, very hard to know that far in advance what the markets are going to do. And that's going to be a significant piece of this. I don't know, I'll bring it back to the committee and we'll think about it. I'm concerned about being so early. The people that I see next are Carol and Judy. So why don't you each go next? And then,
right. Panina,
sorry, Jill, after you'll be next after that.
Panina, you might remember that last June, we voted the 110 and it was equally as confusing. What we did in the finance committee really helped us with was start the discussions in January when the December numbers were in and we had a sense of what the numbers were. And we said, we have to be ready and present this properly in March. We're not going to do it again in June because it was too confusing. So they have responded beautifully. And that's why tonight we even sent everything out Friday. And yes, it's tough, right? And maybe the finance committee can help me more, but I think that's how I see it now. And of course that's, it sounds, but on some level, there's no great time. Because we've been really hashing it out, that we wait for the December number for the Federation, and then we see, who are, so that's it. I don't know whether that helps you or not.
I was going to add to that, that we, the reason, the last, the bylaws say that we vote at the March meeting for the following year's budget. And in June, we vote on the grants that will be given out in the following year. Last year, because when we developed the whole finance committee, we decided that we should, in January, begin having a sense of what we were going to be able to give out. And it was actually pretty accurate what Jean projected in January. And we've been working with that figure, and things haven't changed significantly.
Right.
Having given out, because of COVID, which was such a dire thing, and that was actually done by doodle poll before I was chair. It was last year, because we all thought, who knows, this, if we need to give, if the time to give is, that was the time to give. But that said, we gave out a lot of money, and that's why Jean was being conservative about recommending going forward.
Right. The big change is the amount, that we're just very far off what most foundations are comfortable giving in a year. So, the fact of the matter is, we just want to put ourselves on, somewhat of an austerity plan so that we don't put ourselves at risk, since we want this fund to be able to go on.
That's, yeah.
Jill's been waiting very patiently. If somebody else, excuse me 1 second, Jill, I just want to say, if somebody else wants to say something and we're not calling on you, just please put yourself in the chat so that we know to respond. I just don't see everybody the way my screen is set up.
Thank you. I just want to reiterate something, only because this is my first time through this, so I just want to get this straight. So last week we had our grant kind of going down process. So we started with the 14 grants and then made a very concerted decision to only allow 7 to kind of go to the next phase with, the in-person meetings or the site visits and everything like that, because we were only giving 3 out. But how did we know that if we didn't vote on that yet, to even know that there were only 3 to be considered? Like, I don't understand where we got to that and how we were basing last week's meetings on the 3, if that's up for discussion and vote today.
Well, we did know what was going to be recommended.
Linda, why don't you address that as grants chair? Because I think there's a good answer for that.
Jill, it's a really good question. We started to talk about this in executive committee last year. Seeing what Jean had set up, we started having these conversations after the June meeting last year, where it was kind of a little bit of chaotic. So we talked this fall about, it looks like we probably should only do 85,000 total, which would be 3 grants at 25,000 each. So that's been percolating, and that's the assumption. Now we have to officially vote on it. I would like to look over this summer when we all have a little bit more time and we're not in the thick of things, to talk about the calendarization on this and making sure the funds go to the right fiscal year of when they're being allocated or used and all of that. So hoping we can all, get together and do a little bit more on that. But your question's a good one. I hope that explained it a little bit.
Lynn Rosenzweig's hand has been up the whole time, so yeah.
I want to thank Carol and Judy and Pam, because I have been bugging them for 2 days about this budget, because I have yet to understand it, but I think I understand now, because this is a change from what we've done in the past, where we have known the entire cycle how much grants we have. So I think I now understand that this is an anomaly, and hopefully going forward won't happen, that we won't have given out grants in the fall and done LOIs before we know how much money we're talking about. So hopefully we'll fix that. And Linda, I think you just answered another question of mine, and that is, I think we need to really look at the whole calendar and process so that maybe we could, I mean, this business of approving grants 2 weeks before the fiscal year ends, it's like we should really look at what.
Excuse me, Lynn, I'm sorry. I don't believe that you're correct. We are not.
We said we're approving the grants in June.
But that's to go out, that's for the coming fiscal year. That's not for the year that we're in. We're approving grants at the end of our 2021-22 year for the following year to go out during the fiscal year 2022-2023. If we just ignore this, let's just pretend that our fiscal year ends in December. What we're saying is that at the end, well, it doesn't really matter what the month is. At the end of our fiscal year, at the June meeting, we determine the grants that are going to be paid out in the coming fiscal year. That's what we've always done. That's not changing. We
should have had a number. Then we should have already had a number.
We've never, well, what we've done is, here's what we've done. We've come up with a number completely unrelated to any budgeting issues.
That's not true. That is not true.
Yes, we
We've
have.
always had
I've
a
been
budget.
doing the budget for at least 5 years. It was a plug-in to the budget.
Well, that's.
Yes, it's a number that we said, this is what we're going to give out to grants.
But the answer that was that Linda Kaimate, because we started in January and we were really hoping to be responsible. Yes, we did have this number of 75,000. In fact, we had discussions. There were some people who wanted to cut back and maybe have 4 grants at 20 each, but no, because we had been to 30. So it's been we had what would you almost kind of roadmap drawn, and we were we knew that was what would you say, our template. We knew it. And maybe it's unfair that we didn't hear it. Well,
the grants committee and the finance committee.
Yeah, we kind of knew it.
Which everyone is invited to belong.
Right, but maybe that is a very valid criticism and something we'll think about, that we didn't share it as much as we should. Maybe, I'll give, but it was a template. Yes, Jane.
I believe I also asked a lot of questions and Pam was quick to answer them, and I appreciate that, because I do think the reason I asked the questions, and I've been around a long time, is I don't believe every member really understands and has been sufficiently privy to the process. Maybe it's accidental, but I think that's a fact. Okay. But moving forward, I just want to address and not, I think something Linda said. If our efforts continue to be as successful with new members, I think that it's important that the finance committee and all members, since we each have a vote, not be so locked in only to the market, but to look at the membership. And once we cover expenses, that we are a little bit more open-minded, because I think we can do that. I think that not-for-profits can raise money upon need, and membership is like raising money. So I just think that we should be sensitive or cognizant to our ability to do better, and not just be merely discussing, where the stock market is in December or whatever month we make the decisions. That's all.
We're taking this all to account, but I think everybody had said that, and there are all kinds of ways we could handle this. Exactly, we could have an open budget meeting maybe in January and include everyone. I know, I'm just saying now that I think we're going to go on to our next issue, because we really want to respect the clock. And our next person is Linda, who is going to explain this the LOI report, the Billie Jean King exhibit sponsorship.
You don't have to vote on this?
We have to vote.
We're voting it all together, the
That's
budget.
right. Can I just say, everyone is invited to the grants committee meetings, and anyone else who would like to join the
This
the
is.
finance committee is welcome.
And we will try to find a way maybe to work with everyone for budget issues. It's out there and we'll work on it.
Yeah,
Okay.
and discussion is a positive. When you make a vote, you're supposed to discuss, and that's all people are doing.
Absolutely. And that's
That's great.
wonderful. And that's why we separated. The thing that happened last March was that we were doing not only the budget, but deciding on the grants, winnowing down the grants. And it
Right.
was too much for one meeting. So this year we separated. We had last Thursday, we had the winnowing down so that we could devote more time. And this is a wonderful discussion to the budget issue. Plus, we're thinking about having, I don't know if we were supposed to announce that later, a retreat this summer. And this is certainly one of the issues. Just because we've been doing it this way forever doesn't mean we don't want to change.
Okay, Linda, you're on.
In answer to people's questions, we will be doing a budget vote, but it will take place after Linda and Debbie's report, and you'll find out why in just a moment. Debbie and Linda.
Okay, so we're doing grants first. Real quick highlight. Thank you to everybody who came to our bucket meetings and the vote last Thursday. It was a lot of work for all of you, and you read the LOIs so intently and with great care. And I think it was a great process. I want to turn it over to Debbie to share with you the results and the next steps forward.
Hi, everybody. Before we start, just on a personal note, it happens to be my mom's 5-year yahrzeit tonight, and I can't think of a better way to honor her than with that rousing debate of Jewish women and opinions. So it's like a perfect way for me to spend the night celebrating my mom. Thank you, as Linda said, to everybody who participated and everybody who read all of the LOIs. We had started with 51. We had the bucket meetings. It was a tremendous amount of work and there's a tremendous amount of need, but we took votes and we narrowed it down to 7. And I'll just read them right now for anybody who missed the meeting. We are going with SPAN, Parent Advocacy Network, Empowering Immigrant Mothers of Children with Disabilities and Special Needs. She Wins, Inc., their #self program. NCJW Essex Period Project. Make the Road New Jersey, project of Center for Popular Democracy, Mental and Behavioral Health Support for Immigrant Women in New Jersey. Planned Parenthood of Metro New Jersey for teens, and Claramas Medical Center Safe Haven Emergency Shelter. And then finally, License to Dream, Volunteer Lawyers for Justice, and it's a project to help people get their license back. So it was great debate. We're going to plan site visits. Hopefully we can do site visits for all of these, depending on what the restrictions are. Linda and I will set up sign up geniuses. We'll be asking for one person to lead the site visit and for, I think, maybe 4 people to attend. And then after that, we'll have our June meeting and we'll vote on the final 3. So thank you to everybody for participating. It was I thought it was great. My first cycle, but it was fantastic.
And thank you to both of you who did an incredible job. And Debbie was, I mean, the organization was beyond wonderful.
It was a great team with Pam, Debbie, and I. We couldn't have done it without Pam. Her contributions were incredible. So before we get to the budget vote, we have an interesting opportunity that we wanted to present to you all. At one of our LOI meetings, which was on girls and women empowerment, we were presented with an LOI for the Yogi Berra Museum and the Billie Jean King exhibit. The Billie Jean King is an icon, a legend. We're all familiar with her. There is a special exhibition being put on by the New York Historical Society that's coming to the Yogi Berra Museum from June 1st through December 30th. And it's all about girls' empowerment. There will be school trips, especially for girls from, what is it, Title 10 school, Title I school, sorry. They'll be coming in, and there's just a great opportunity to show what an impact Billie Jean King had on girls and women in sports, in life with LGBTQ. So we presented this LOI and people did not want to move forward with this for a $25,000 grant. But in that bucket meeting, everybody was so super excited about this exhibit and wanted to talk about sponsoring the exhibition. And so we went back to the Yogi Berra Museum, asked them to put together a proposal to us. And so I've sent that, or Pam has sent that to you in the attachments. What the event would be is we're looking at September, October as a stewardship cultivation event for our members, their daughters, their granddaughters, but also a great event to bring in potential new members. And women would come, we'd get us an intro to this whole thing, a tour, a speaker who's incredibly well-informed. I know Lindsay Berry, Yogi's granddaughter, she would come as well. Incredible signage, and they have been getting incredible PR through the efforts they've been doing on the Negro League exhibition, which I went to see in December. Incredible news coverage. If we sponsor this, our name goes on all the signage, it goes in all the PR. It has the opportunity to have local, regional, national coverage. So we think this is a great opportunity. We put it out at the beginning to the executive committee. There was a very overwhelming majority who felt really great about this, but we need the vote of all our members. The cost of this is $2,500. I think if we got one new member that comes out of this event, it will have paid for itself. And I just think it's a really great idea. As we look at our budget, and I know Jean just went through all of this, we actually have some money that's available, because when Pam started in January, we're only using half of the money of her salary, given she only started in January. So there is money in the budget for this, and we wouldn't have to dig into the bulk of our funds that are in the endowment fund. We do have money to spare. So I just wanted to see if there were any questions before we move on to the next step.
Any questions?
Why is the Yogi Berra Museum in Little Falls, New Jersey? Is that where he's from?
Yes, he's from Montclair, and it's at the baseball stadium there where the Jackals play, and it's an amazing museum. It's been there for about 15, 18 years. They have a minor league baseball team that plays there. Lynn says, I'm sorry, Jill says, can we somehow turn this into a fundraiser? Lynn says $2,500 for one new member is a high cost of member acquisition. Although if we get one new member, it pays for that one new member. So I think if we look at the bigger picture, I know we've sponsored other events in the past where it's been $250 for like the Jewish Film Festival, but I think that was a shorter period of time. This is a 6-month period. And I think our name would be out there in a way that really supports women, that reaches a much broader audience as well. Lynn, did you have a Rosenzweig? And then Julie?
Yes. I hate to be such a naysayer, but if it's PR and marketing, our expenses are already too high, and we keep saying that we can't spend any more money because we don't have enough money to grant. If it's the purpose of a grant for $2,500, I personally think there's a lot of other organizations out there that are dealing with women and girls empowerment and LGBTQ and all of that. So I kind of think it's not really worth the marketing cost, and I also don't think it's worth the grant. So I would vote against it.
Julie?
So I'm not sure if everyone read it, but I was in that bucket meeting, and I think the one that stirred the pot with this. So I will definitely throw that on me. When reading all of our proposals, we had 5, I think, correct, Linda?
Yep.
And believe it or not, of the 5 that we had, we sent 0 because we didn't think any of them were worthy of a site visit, especially knowing that we would probably only be giving 3. With that being said, the Yogi Berra one was amazing. And if you read it and you see how many people are going to go through it and how many people are actually going to experience it with the women and girls, it was totally who we are. And people will see our name out there, and you have no idea how many people will get to know us. And I think that's what we need. We need more ways to market, and we can't, with that amount of money, give another grant out this year. So it's a way of saying we're giving 3.5 out and reaching more people than we would. That's just where we were at.
Debbie, then Carol.
I do think it's important to note, and somebody had noted this during one of the bucket meetings, it is one of the only ones that we're even considering pushing forward that supports the arts in any way. And because it's Billie Jean King, it does have an element, obviously, of LGBTQ rights because of all of her activism. So it reaches all of these girls who will be going through it. And then for us, it provides a 75-person opportunity to cultivate all of these new members that we're bringing in and possibly, prospective members. So,
Carol?
Well, I so love the idea of having our name associated with this event for all the reasons that everyone has said. Billie Jean King is an important role model of an empowered woman, the exact thing that we're all about. And if we had the resources of a larger foundation, I would not hesitate for a moment. If we pass the hat, I would be happy to donate to that cause. That said, our foundation is a very limited size, and $2,500 is not a relatively small amount. We award 4 grants of $2,500 each during our fall grant cycle, and that process involves a series of bucket meetings and votes, and it's a whole process that was developed by Linda and by the grants committee very admirably. We have in the past sponsored community events, and sometimes we use those sponsorships to host membership events, which we did in the days before the pandemic at Jewish Film that Jewish Film Festival at the JCC. We had a dinner. It was actually a terrific event. But these sponsorships, and there are other ones in the community that are free, and $250 for the film festival is nowhere in this order of magnitude. So we need to vote on this.
Right.
And just everyone can have their say, but that's my say.
Right.
Nina?
Nina, yeah.
So I just asked the question in the chat, who's the target audience for this exhibit? Because I think a few people have mentioned the Jewish Film Festival. The Jewish Film Festival is primarily, well, it's a lot men, but it's men and women in the community who would be potential members to Jewish Women's Foundation. So I just am curious as to who the target audience would be for this type of exhibit. And I do believe it's great name recognition, but do we honestly believe we could get members from this exhibit?
Well, so there's an education program for field trips to accompany the show with a focus on Title I schools. And the museum hosts a lot of school trips over the years. I know they were bringing kids from Newark schools for the Negro Leagues exhibition and doing it online when the pandemic hit. The teachers that have been bringing students in over all these years have been asking for something specifically for girls. This really does address it. Of the girls coming through and the teachers coming through, I don't think we'll get members out of that. What we're hoping is that at the event that we would do in September, October, that will bring women that are thinking about joining our group. While we're doing a membership drive now, we've already got 6 and several of us have more members that'll come in by the end of this fiscal. We think that a second level of the membership drive in September, as we're really gearing up, we can bring more of those women who might have been undecided to that event. So I hope that answers your question, Panina.
It does, thank you. Can we host some type of event there or a fundraiser to attract women, new members, or potential members? Can we make better use of that space and amazing work that the exhibit seems to?
That's what the sponsorship is about. It will give us all the publicity and signage and coverage and media. But the event we do, that's the one where we want to bring our mothers, our daughters, our sisters, and potential new members that haven't signed up yet. So we're doing the drive now. We'll do the secondary drive, as long as it's okay with Betty and Lizzie, in September at this event, so that it's a nice way for them to come in, meet lots of people, see an event that we've done, and have that power behind us.
Just as as an aside, Panina, originally they kind of came up, they said, we'll give you a wine and cheese and you can bring 25 people. We went back and said, no, we don't want your wine and cheese. We want more people. We'll do our own food. And when it was suggested the other day that whoever wants to then go to a restaurant like in Montclair or something, the party will continue. And we'll, something like that out of that evening.
Betty,
So
you're on mute.
My question is, will we have opportunities throughout the year to do these sponsorship things? I know we saw this one and I think that it's very interesting. I sent one in from Nassan's Place for $500 to do an incredible sponsorship, where we can't give 2,500 or 3,000 or whatever, but we could do 500. Are we going to have opportunities throughout the year to bring these sponsorship things to votes? Or is this just one special potential?
So we did talk about with the budget for next year, including a line for sponsorships. That came out of one of our bucket meetings. We thought, and Julie Kaplan was just saying, we thought it's really great to have this. Could we have a line item in the budget to handle things like this? And I know Heidi had a question, how will this affect our granting this year? As I said, we haven't used up all of our budgets since there was 6 months of Pam's salary that did not get spent. And we also have $1,000 in the budget for marketing, which I don't believe we've spent. So I think once we can look at our forecasted budget and finances for this year, we only have spending through December, but we know there's flex in the budget because we didn't use up all the money as we had anticipated. Heidi, does that answer your question?
Yes. Definitely. Thank you.
I'm gonna ask a question. I'm gonna ask it twofold. One is our goal to get new members or to get members to spend more money so we can then grant more dollars? That's the first question. And the second question is this event used to recruit people who might be interested in asking us for a grant? Because the 1 or 2 meetings that I've sat in on, the grants that we have been getting have been organizations that already have huge, marketing arms, whether it's the Friendship Circle or it's a political organization like the Planned Parenthood. I'm wondering if the event would be for us to recruit people who are looking for us to grant them money, or is it only to get new members? I don't see what we're trying to do at this $2,500 event.
Those are good questions, Laura. The first one is, I think, a separate conversation. Do we want our members to give more money, more than the 2,000? I think that's a question we have to have outside of this, because our philosophy has always been we ask each member for $2,000 a year. I think there are 2 parts to this event. One is a cultivation event for new members. If we have people that we can bring with us, that'll be a great opportunity to do it. Since we haven't been together as a group for so long, this is always also a stewardship event where we can give our members a reason to come together in something that's outside of our meetings. I don't know that we'd have the bandwidth to bring in any of the organizations we provide grants to or who come to us. And Laura, you sat in on a meeting, and I can't remember which one, but we get organizations that have annual budgets anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000 up to $5 or $10 million a year. We have a very wide variety of agencies that come to us. And so I don't think this is the right place for them to come to because it's not an event to meet with other agencies. I think that could be something different, but I hope that answers your question.
Yep.
There were questions from Natalie and Heidi and Jill in the chat.
Oh, let's see. So is this something members could pay for and contribute to as a fundraiser? That's a possibility. Can't we do a cultivation at an event at a place without a $2,500 donation? Of course we could. And Heidi says, to my knowledge, Planned Parenthood is not a political organization, however politicized their mission has become.
True.
And then Pam said Betty has a hand raised. Betty, did you want to add something?
No, you have me.
Okay.
Natalie has a hand raised.
I have a question. It feels to me, and I wasn't at that meeting last week, that this is just, we're giving them a grant without going through due process. We could go back to the film festival and have an event at the JCC or whatever and cultivate the same members. We don't know, we have not been involved with this organization before, I don't think. And also all the publicity that they're going to do is their market potential members for us or potential agencies. It just feels like we're going out of process here for something that's what sounds like it's a great organization, but we're not voting on it. We're going, I'll just repeat it again. We're going out of process. It seems like we're muddying the waters.
Nancy?
Nancy's got her hand up.
Yeah, I agree with what Natalie just said, and that was my initial reaction, that there is a process where we do this all the time and have done it for years. And this, I've been to that museum twice, and so I am familiar with it. It's a great little museum, but if you were marketing it to me, I would not go up there to attend this function. And I don't know how you're going to get people to go up there. It's you know, it's not around the corner. It's not in our neighborhood. I just don't see that this is a major attraction, no matter what the exhibit is. The exhibit might get publicized in the papers by the organization, but I just don't feel that it's going to be attractive to people for me to say, look, I'm going to take you to the Yogi Bear museum to look at this exhibit, because I also want you to become involved in Jewish Women's Foundation. I think there are plenty of other things that we could think about around here for less money that will be more attractive.
Heidi also had a question.
But I do think it's Billie Jean King. That's the hook, not.
I understand that, but I
If
still.
it wasn't Billie Jean King, I don't even think we'd be having this discussion.
Exactly.
And it's coming from and the Historical Society in New York, and then you know it's going to be full of really interesting material. I mean, you know, that's the answer to that. Not.
I understand, but as a marketing tool, I don't see it getting the women in our community. I don't think it's attractive enough. Even I might go up there on my own, but not because I'm interested in any possibility of joining Jewish Women's Foundation.
I'm just going to say, I'm taking everything in, and everyone's feelings and emotions are accurate. Natalie and Nancy, I'm always on your side, and I definitely am with you right now. Granted, I was in this granting meeting, and we didn't have any great proposals, and that was the only one. And it was great. We didn't want it to be our site visit and everything. And so that's when I said, oh, remember when we did X, Y, and Z, and we thought it was a great idea. I think everybody knows the information right now.
Yes.
No.
And I think let's just do a vote.
Yes.
And if it's somewhere in between, we can talk about it more. And if it's not, then I think we can just move on. So I'm going to call a motion to move on. I'm sorry I brought it up, I think, but
No, thank you, Julie.
move on
Thank
to
you.
the
Thank you,
motion.
Julie.
Should we give a, what are we calling this?
So
It's
Julie,
a poll.
Has to be in the form of a motion from
No,
somebody.
no, I am, but what is this?
Pam will
called?
tell us.
Let Pam do this.
I have a poll, and the poll is that someone should make the motion is the first vote on the poll is to accept the 2022-23 budget as presented. The second choice is to accept the 22-23 budget with an additional allocation for the Billie Jean King exhibit sponsorship. Third vote is I do not accept the budget, and fourth vote is I abstain. So our budget poll will include Billie Jean King in it. Can someone make that motion to?
That's what Julie is making the motion, I think.
Thank you.
I make the motion of all of those things that Pam just said.
And I second it.
Okay, let's go to that poll then.
We're now up to 30 members on the call, which is fantastic. Thank you,
Yes.
everybody, for being here.
Okay, I just want to make sure I got that in writing before ending the poll, just in case. And I will share the results. Can everyone see that?
Okay.
Okay, so the 2022-23 budget was accepted as presented. The allocation has not been accepted for the Billie Jean King sponsorship. And we can go on to the next part of the meeting.
Okay. Okay, Carol, you want to take that next category?
Right, so and I'm looking at the time, and why don't we just quickly, we were going to do another poll. We are always, for time immemorial, we've been having discussions about what time our meeting should be. Evening, there's all kinds of members, and we've switched around. And so now, once again, we can quickly do a Zoom poll, striking a balance between Zoom meetings. Pam, do you want to describe what Zoom meetings and in-person meetings? And then we have some announcements in our program.
Okay, so the next poll, if actually, I don't think we need to make a motion for this poll, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is given Zoom meetings, and we, of course, we want to go forward with the balance of Zoom meetings and in-person meetings. Would you prefer evening scheduling or daytime scheduling?
So if you don't care, you would do abstain?
Yes.
What if you want to balance?
These are just for
Does it
the,
have to
these are
be an
just
either
for
or?
the,
Then
Yeah.
abstain if you don't have a preference.
wait.
Well,
are
no,
these
but
But
if
I
they
do
just-
have a
somewhere in-
preference.
I'm sorry.
I want to do
Hold
one of
on.
each.
Yeah,
Wait, is this, are the meetings for just the council meetings? Or are you talking about meetings, all meetings? What are these Zoom meetings? Are these Zoom meeting times for
Board?
council or for
I
committee?
think we're talking about meetings and not events. Okay, so yes, we're talking about council meetings, but again, we still haven't figured out the balance between Zoom meetings and in-person meetings. This vote doesn't set anything in stone. We're just trying to get a sense of where people sit in their schedules. Scheduling preferences.
Jill.
but like all of last week's meetings and things like that to discuss that, those were a balance. Some were early in the morning, some were
Oh,
midday, some were in the evening.
Good point.
So this doesn't give us the opportunity to do that.
All
Right?
right, someone has to mute themselves.
Trial that could lead to new breakthroughs.
Yeah, somebody mute themselves, yeah. All right, thank you.
Thank
Susan.
you.
That's a good point, and we actually should have, let's ignore, the bucket meetings are out of this. You know, that's that cute little term, that bucket meetings, okay? That does not pertain. This is much more at the council meetings, these four, and then even last week, for instance, we had an evening meeting, but I think it was just to get some sense whether there are enough people who, you know, what people feel. Okay, good question, Jill, thank you. So.
Thank you.
Judy, are these mostly like quarterly meetings where we want more people to be together in person, where it could be a 2-hour meeting versus, you know, a bucket meeting that's an hour?
Exactly, forget, the
Okay.
bucket meeting, the ones that were the 2 weeks in February is out of this equation. It's out of here. It's not part of this.
I have a comment. I think I prefer the evening meetings. I'm going to say that right off the bat. But I think asking everybody who's here at an evening meeting to vote, do you prefer day or evening? We're not asking the people who aren't here
Well,
what they prefer. I don't know if that would have an
well,
effect.
this is a pretty good night, 30 people on a meeting, Susan. We
No,
haven't-
I think it's great.
So
I'm just saying.
Let's take the pulse, and then guess what? We'll get back to you on it. You know, obviously this wasn't as what do you call it? We may, maybe. we-
Taking the temperature. We might send out another poll if it's inconclusive.
Right, right, right.
We've done this forever, so
Yeah.
You know, the fact of the matter is that whatever you vote for tonight, it's gonna, when the actual event happens, you don't know what your schedule is gonna be and what's going to happen. And at the last minute, you might not be able to attend for extenuating circumstances. That's life.
Okay, I don't want to spend a lot of time on these polls because we still have so much more to do. 29 people have voted. If the last, there's one more person on the meeting who hasn't voted yet.
It was probably me, so
Okay.
let's move on.
So I'm going to end the poll with, it seems that 16 out of 29 prefer evenings, 5 prefer days, and 9 are undecided or abstain.
Okay, good. Thank
Okay.
you. That's really good for us. Now, the next vote. Oh, well,
First.
this is interesting because this does have to do with what Federation, you know, we like to use them as a guideline. And Pam will say, what's the date that they're going to allow lay people in the building again?
As of April 4th, Federation is allowing lay people in the building, assuming that doesn't change. So there is the opportunity that we might be able to go back to having our in-person meetings as of,
But-
after Passover time.
But in the interest of, you know, some people really still being very, very conscious of, you know, COVID restrictions, we wanted to do this poll, right? So can you put that one up then, please? For in-person or day, evening or daytime? This is in person.
Sorry, I clicked it out of it by mistake. How do I get it back, Pam? How do-
I don't know. Why don't you write to me in the chat, Susan?
And are we making the assumption that all meetings will be held at Federation up on Route 10?
Yeah.
Not necessarily, you know, they could be in a home, but probably, you know, if we get 30 people.
Oh, I'm just saying that would maybe
Oh,
make people's decision different how far they're driving in the evening.
No, very few people live near
Yeah,
Whippany.
that's
And-
why. I asked the question.
And also, if we're doing in person, is there Zoom with that as well?
So if we're at Federation, the possibility is strong that we can do Zoom because they have the equipment for us to be able to make that happen.
right, now.
I mean,
Jill- yeah,
I would just throw out there, I think, look how many people you have. I
know.
think Zoom works. I know you all want to see each other, but Zoom for certain things really work, like the grants. Look at all these votings that were done in 2 seconds instead of all of us chatting. Just throwing that out.
That's a great point, and I like Jill's comment. Jill Johnson says, will there be a combination? So this voting is a little bit, what we did is we got a nice pulse in the first issue. Let's get a little, look, oh, look at this, okay.
So this is interesting that there really isn't as strong a preference as there was with the Zoom meetings, but more people prefer daytime scheduling for in-person, which
Okay.
is interesting, okay? So-
I think it has to do with the location.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, Federation in the evening on Route 10 or 287, however people get there, is not
pleasant.
Yes, yeah, it's
Yeah, exactly.
So-
But this is great. I think everybody's.
We have a
who had
sense.
Questions now saw that they were heard, that we were thinking about it. And even thinking about it, it's still hard to come to a conclusion. I think that we can all agree on that.
I also, I'd like to add that we have been at home for 2 years. I think there's going to be a transition period. Some people are going to want to stay on Zoom. And like Julie said, this is very comfortable sitting in my den, you know, dressed the way I am. And so I think we have to see where the world goes and what we're feeling in a few months when people do get out again.
Or can we go to the meetings in our pajamas?
Yeah,
I think we need to move on.
Can we move on because Cheryl, do you have a little report about the film festival? I know. I think you're muted.
Not only was I muted, but I had the poll screen on still in front of me and I had to get rid of it. So, because yes, I have, hold on one second. Now I just lost the information that I had. So the film festival, the Jewish Film Festival, is running March 27th to April 3rd, and we settled on the film Queen Shoshana. I don't really know that much about the film, although I think others do. It will be as a Zoom. We'll look at it as Zoom, and it will run online from the 27th to the 3rd of April. We haven't settled on a date for a discussion, or whether that will be live or Zoom. And so we want to coordinate that date. We'll have 15 free tickets. An email will go out, and people will need to respond to me. First come, first serve.
Right.
And that's it.
Okay, well, thank you, and we'll learn more about that. We just felt that
Yeah.
was the program.
Just to put it on the radar.
Right, thank you so much.
And that doesn't mean that other people can't see it. It's just that 15 will be free and the rest of us
Absolutely.
can
Anybody
pay.
can see it, and you can, see as many films as you want on your own.
Okay, so let's go on now for Jane, a little bit of a plug, but please, time is of the essence, because, thank you.
So my co-chair Melissa Polana is on a business trip, but we have been working on our spring educational and enrichment program. It is scheduled as of today for April 11th, featuring a speaker from Art for Justice. Art for Justice was founded by Agnes Gund and was funded by the sale of art valued over $100 million. The fund makes grants to artists and advocates focused on safety, reducing the prison population, promoting justice, reinvestment, and creating art that changes the narrative around mass incarceration. There'll be a women's thrust on this. It's a whole different way of looking at philanthropy, funding philanthropy with art and using art to make a statement. We know that a number of our members are into art, as well as we have given out grants with regard to incarcerated women. So that is it. It is scheduled to be in person and hopefully in Llewellyn Park.
Okay.
Is that a daytime or evening?
An evening.
Okay. Pam, what do you want to bring Elizabeth Mandel? Do you want to do,
No, not yet. First, I want to tell everyone about the Jewish Women's Funders Network. So I'm going to share a screen with you. Okay, everyone see that? You also had this brochure attached to the letter that I sent out. The Jewish Women's Funders Network is something that's really been in existence since 2007, but it was an informal network until recently. And the member organizations all are organizations for Jewish women where the goal is philanthropic work. Now it's currently being funded by Barbara Dobkin during the period of the past 2 years. And Barbara Dobkin hired a consultant to try to help make this organization into more of a formal network. I'm bringing this to the trustees tonight because with the formal establishment of the network, we will be paying dues for membership to this organization. It's not a whole lot at the moment. It's going to be $600 per year, but we're going to be one of the founding members along with these organizations that you can see here. Is that big enough, or do I need to make it bigger on the screen? Hold on one second. Okay, can everyone read that now? Okay. And there's a number of reasons why JWF will want to be part of the network. Number one, it gives me a seat at the table with the other Jewish Women's Foundation's directors. I also have access to a listserv where we talk about a lot of issues. Who should we be funding? How should we be funding? What grant making software should we be using, etc. It's also an opportunity for you as the members to be part of all of their educational opportunities. And so in a moment, I'm going to talk about something called the Force for Change Conference, to which all of you are invited because JWF will be a member in this network. And lastly, it's an opportunity for cooperative grant making and advocacy and other impact opportunities that we can only have if we are joining together with other Jewish women's foundations from across the country. So a number of years ago, we did one of our COVID grants through this network. One moment, I'm going to stop the share of this and now show you about the Force for Change conference, which I alluded to a moment ago. So the big event of the year is the Force for Change conference. This will be the second year that it's happening. All of our members are invited to attend, and you can see that the events are online, happening May 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. The last day is really only for professionals, and the first day is really just a member orientation about the JWFN, about the network. But these days in particular, the 10th and 11th, you might be interested in attending, and I will be sending out more information as we get closer to the date about how you can register. Lastly, JWFN, I sent you something from them on Friday, just as evidence of how they're going to be serving all of their member organizations. There was an update on women and children in the Ukraine via a webinar on Friday. I actually wasn't able to attend it, but it turns out that they recorded it, and I got the YouTube link today, and we'll share it with all of you tomorrow via an email. But that was a program that was organized by the Jewish Women Funders Network. Any questions about it?
We budgeted money. We just voted.
We did. That was part of the under memberships in different organization memberships. It included that and the Council of New Jersey Grantmakers, which is the other organization that we've been part of for a while. The Council of New Jersey Grantmakers is important because all those listservs help me reach out to local organizations for RFPs, and also help me reach out to local organizations to find out who's funding whom, which organizations do we trust to give our funds to, which organizations use our money well, and they have lots of other conversations and webinars that are important for us going forward. Julie.
Is the Force for Change, I know you said it's new, it's second year doing it, but isn't the Force for Change also the one that Tootie Scott used to do that we did years ago? And I went to 2 of these things.
Oh,
So it's not new.
You're right. Then it's not new.
Okay.
I'm new.
No, that's fine. I just was like, oh, it's the same conference that the JWF. Okay.
Right, and it was really valuable, actually. It came out of New York and we went to it.
Okay, so now.
This is where we started doing the cooperative Israeli grant, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so are we now going to go right to our
So now we are. So if I think there were 1 or 2 of you who had asked me if friends who are prospective members could join on. Elizabeth Mandel, who will be presenting this evening, is now going to be coming online. So this is the time to reach out to those friends. And as soon as I know that Elizabeth is here, I will read her bio and tell you about her organization. This is going to be a really exciting presentation. I'm really excited for it. Okay. Is Elizabeth on yet? She's coming on now.
We're only 15 minutes behind. It's great.
And we're home.
Okay, I'm going to start with Elizabeth's official bio, and then when she comes on, I'll tell a personal story. So Elizabeth Mandel is J Girls Plus magazine's founder and executive director. She is an accomplished documentary filmmaker, writer, editor, and community activist. She has built a successful record of using media to raise awareness and create change around social justice, gender, and Jewish community issues. Elizabeth holds a master's degree from Columbia University in International Affairs with a focus on women's economic and political development, and a BA from Columbia with a major in religion. She lives in New York with her husband and 3 daughters. And I believe she just came on. Elizabeth, are you here? Ah, there she is. I'm going to pin her.
Hi.
And then I just want to tell, I was reading your official bio while you came on, but I wanted to let everyone know how we first met, which is, so Elizabeth and I first met in the summer before our junior year in high school, when we were on an Israel trip together through USY. The funny thing is, as we were talking the other day, is that from that group of 62 teens, 3 of those teen girls are now involved in feminist opportunities in feminist activism in some capacity, which I just think is an astounding number. So there was clearly something in the water that we were drinking in Israel that summer. And then we attended Columbia together, but it's really nice now. I'm pleased that our paths are intersecting once again, and that she can tell us all about her involvement with J Girls Plus. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Pam, for inviting me tonight, and thank you all for being here, for staying on to give me the opportunity to introduce my work at this late hour. So I love that Pam referred to when we were high school students, because this is the population I work with. J Girls Plus is an online magazine and community in which all content is created by self-identifying Jewish teenage girls, young women, and non-binary teens between the ages of 13 and 19. And all of the content that they create, which ranges from art and photography to poetry, personal essays, fiction, video, music, and I hope to have the opportunity to share some of this work at the end. So all of the content is created by these young people, and then our editorial board and our staff photographers are also sophomores through juniors in high school. And their work is, the purpose of the site is to give teenage girls the opportunity to express their most authentic selves, to have their voices amplified and elevated, to know that their voices matter, to have the opportunity to artistically express the things that are most on their minds, to know through the work of the others that they're not alone in the things that they're struggling with, and that they're also in a community that can celebrate their wonderful accomplishments. And all of the content is curated, and the site's aesthetic is shaped by their peers. And these 16 editors and 6 staff photographers we consider them teen staff. And we offer them a very, very intense Jewish feminist leadership training course. So they're both learning and working, and it's really through this experiential education that they grow and develop as leaders. So I want to talk a little bit more about that, but I first want to return to where this idea came from, which is really relevant to what Pam was talking about. So Pam and I discussed this a little bit, that when we met those many, many years ago, we were each really trying to figure out who we were in the world, what our values were, what mattered to us, what within the community in which we existed, which, did not include the internet where we could see all of these other models of living, what resonated with us, what was out there that we didn't know about yet. And I know for me, that USY trip was so formative because, first of all, it was independent of my parents. It was under the auspices of an organization that practiced Judaism in a way that was different from the way that I grew up. And I was able to meet other teens from all over the country who were able to really challenge and expand and supplement my idea of what it meant to be a Jewish teenage girl. And it was transformational. So I have 3 daughters. They're currently 14, 12, and 9. But when I started the organization, they were very, very small. And like so many other small children, they were incredibly robust in staking their claim, in saying what they needed, in saying what they wanted, what they cared about, in being assertive in their needs. And I knew from my own experience as a teen girl, the girl that was on that USY trip, and from just living in this world, that as they moved toward their teen years, all of the forces around them that were telling them to be smaller and to be quieter, they would start to heed those voices. And those loud, brave, assertive, spark-filled voices of these young children were going to wane. And you know, I think that this is true of, I know that this is true of teen girls from any background. And for Jewish girls, you know, as with any culture, we have our own special way that manifests itself. You know, our girls are literally told to be smaller, right? Straighten your hair, lose weight, maybe get that big nose fixed, right? All of these messages, don't take up so much space. Don't take up so much space. And I wanted to give, it started off as my daughter's affirmation that those voices deserve to be loud, that those voices deserve to be heard, and that what they say mattered, and that nobody knew themselves as well as they knew themselves. And also to model for them, to give them the opportunity to hear what other ways of living were, and to exchange ideas with people for whom living Jewishly looked very different, for whom living as a girl looked very different. You know, the experience of a Jewish teenage girl living in New Jersey and the experience of a Jewish teenage girl living in Salt Lake City, Utah, are extraordinarily different. And all of these are true. All of these are realities, and there's a lot of learning to be done there. So this started off as, you know, how can I support my own girls, and grew into this much larger question of how can I support our girls, and then more broadly, how can I support our community? What can I do? What can I do to help transform our community so that girls and women, Jewish girls and women everywhere, that these voices that have historically been marginalized, that historically have been ignored, can be centered in the Jewish conversation. And it turned into this magazine, this platform for these voices to be authentic and loud and exchanged with one another. And also this teen leadership program, where we train these young people, we offer them workshops in editing so that they're learning hard skills that they can bring into the edit room with them as they curate content written by their peers. We do leadership training. We talk about things like civil dialogue and how to talk across difference with people who, when you first sit down with them, you might think you have nothing in common with them. How do you find that common ground, and how do you learn from one another, especially in this time where we're so siloed and so at odds within our community, cross-denominationally, when speaking about Israel, domestic politics, right? How do you stop and listen and have these conversations, which are critical to the health of our community? And then we talk about identity. What are the many ways that it looks to live as a Jewish young person today? And they bring these skills with them into the edit room, where they have the opportunity to apply them. So they're not just sitting in a classroom learning them, but they have a job. And in fact, aligned with our values, we offer them a stipend. We offer them a stipend, and we pay our published contributors. We want to model for them, again, going against the social grain. We want to model for them that their labor has value, their Jewish work has value, their creative work has value in the marketplace. And in doing this, what our vision is to create a pipeline to a long-term pipeline to Jewish feminist leadership, to nurture in these young people the ability to make decisions, hard skills, the ability to manage in a feminist way, collaborative, active listening, and to bring these skills into our Jewish institutions and into our Jewish communities. And in doing so, to transform the way that we do business in our Jewish community, to really get at the root causes for the reasons that, you know, there are so many women who work for Jewish communities, but at the top echelons in the largest organizations, the largest federations, are led by men. And how do we transform our community? How do we value these voices? How do we value this experience? And how do we place women in positions, not just women, but feminist women in positions, that the way that they are working within federations, within JCCs, within tiny organizations like mine, to center these marginalized voices and to celebrate the full diversity of the Jewish community. So I started J Girls about 6 or 7 years ago. We've been very blessed to be funded by several Jewish women's foundations, including the Jewish Women's Foundations of New York, Chicago, Philadelphia, Atlanta, as well as Hadassah. And we're really at an inflection point right now where we are about to launch a new project, which I'm very excited about. It's working with young adults, so ages 16 to 22. And we're going to be training them to be skilled, well-educated public speakers. We're going to train them in public speaking skills. We're going to match them with experts in their fields of interest to help prepare them to speak publicly on the issues that impact their lives, but for which adults are decision makers: climate change, gun violence, anti-Semitism, gender, all of these issues that are being discussed at the upper echelons that impact them so deeply where they're not included, to match them with professionals in the Jewish community who can open doors for them, and then ultimately to position them on panels in leading workshops where decisions are being made, where these conversations are happening, to make sure that their voices are included. So this project, we've just started preparing for it. It's brand new. It's very, very exciting. And it's part of this pipeline of developing these voices and preparing them for leadership opportunities, and in doing so, transforming the Jewish community so that we're listening to feminist voices and so that we're interacting in ways that are collaborative and in ways that value difference and and look at the world through a gender lens. So I want to be mindful of the time. Before we go, and if there's time for questions, I'd love to take questions. I want to share with you a few pieces from our website. This is a poem that we received that really reminded me of how critical this work is, for these young people to be heard and to hear one another. And I'll give you a moment to read it. So I've read this poem probably 1,000 times now, and every time I read it, I feel extraordinarily moved by it. If it weren't for J. Girls, this story, this young person's voice, and the story of her friend would not be out in public. And the conversation that this generates, and the way that this, first of all, has given this young person an opportunity. Creating art is a way to manage the difficult moments in our life, to manage trauma, to manage challenges. To be able to do so publicly is such an affirmation of the reality of this friend. And all of the young people who have had similar experiences of being sexually assaulted, of being disbelieved because of, silver dollars left from their tongues, because of the way that power works. Power and gender intersect with one another. And now this is out there, and other young people feel less alone, and it generates conversation. How do we manage situations like this? Who's responsible? How can we support our young people? How can we believe our young people? When we talk about Me Too, what do we mean? And there's a lot more content like this, actually. Unfortunately, a lot of young people are writing about this subject, and fortunately, they now have a way to share it with their peers. I want to now share another piece, which I really, really love, called Eva. We feature a lot of really beautiful art on our site. So I'll wait for Pam to bring that up. And first of all, how gorgeous is this piece of art? How gorgeous is this piece of art? Yeah. And so much of what's really surprising for me is how much of our work is about, really traces the arc of Jewish history and connection to the past, and how many young people are writing about the Holocaust, are writing about their grandparents, are tying their experience to thousands of years of tradition. And for many of our editors, actually, J. Girls is the only Jewish activity that they're involved in. And for many, it's the first Jewish activity that they're very involved in. And I think about these young people sitting in the edit room the art department sitting in that room and talking about this piece and the conversations that it ignites. What is our past? What is our future? What is our role in bringing together the past and future? How are we, as people of the book, as a community of artists and writers, honoring the past while looking forward to the present? And then I'll share at least one more piece. I'll check in with Pam if we have time for for two more. For one more.
Held.
Okay. Yep.
Okay.
So I love this piece. This is one of the first pieces that we published, or an early piece that we published. And again, this balance between past and future. Where have we come from, and where these very, very Jewish ideas of where have we come from and where are we going? And this very Jewish idea that what Judaism is and seeking identity and meaning is a continuing conversation. It's Talmudic and it's Midrashic. You know, these stories that we tell and the way that we preserve our work for future generations. There is so much more of this on our site. Our young people are creating and writing about everything, all of the issues that I mentioned that we hope that they speak on, and also the joys of being a young person, the joys of being a Jewish young person, and what it means to them. So I hope that you will visit our site. I'm sure Pam will share it out.
Just did.
There she did. jgirlsmagazine.org. Do we have time for a couple of questions now, Pam?
5 minutes.
Okay, 5 minutes for questions.
Panina?
Sorry, I was just finding the unmute. As a funding organization like we are, I'm just curious
Yeah.
where you get your funding.
Yeah, so thank you for asking. So we are funded by a lot of the Jewish Women's Foundations. Atlanta, Chicago, New York, Philadelphia, and Hadassah all fund us. We are also funded by the Covenant Foundation, by Upstart, by the Good People Fund, and the Jewish Education Project. Yeah, as well as very generous individual donors who all, you know, come together. I love that it's also a community project supported by so many individuals within our community. So thank you for asking.
Jane has a question.
How do girls learn about your magazine?
So our greatest ambassadors are the girls themselves. Remember the old commercial, and they told two friends, and they told two friends. None of my teens know that commercial, but I remember it. Social media, mailing list. I'm a very, very deep believer in building relations with other youth-serving organizations. We're all working toward the same goals, perhaps from different perspectives. We have a lot of partnerships with other youth-serving organizations. We do programs with them. We have a writing competition with Hadassah that we've hosted twice now. We republish content on Lilith. We just had a piece published, our first piece published in the Forward, which was really, really exciting for us. And so we also turn to those other organizations that work with youth, trusted adults that work with youth to get the word out. And then also having our content appear, which is part of our mission, right? Our mission is to amplify and elevate these young voices. So when something appears in the Forward, not only is it publicity, but it's actually moving toward our mission of more people, more readers, having the opportunity to hear these voices that have so much to teach us. And that are such a critical part of our community conversation.
Thank you.
And please, you know, and I rely on everybody I meet, So I would love for those of you with young people in your lives to please share this. Actually, our applications for our teen staff positions, for our leadership positions as editors and photographers are open between now and April 14th. So if you do have a young person in your life who is interested in creative pursuits and in feminist leadership, we really, really encourage them to apply. And if they're not ready to apply, to know about the organization, to read our content, to submit their own creative content as well. There are many different ways and different levels to be involved.
Susan?
Yes, for this new program you're starting, people in their early 20s, late teens, are they going to be graduates of your program, or are they all new people?
Oh, yes. So the way that we work is if you start, depending whether you start your sophomore, junior, or senior year, you can remain with us for 1, 2, or 3 years. So sophomores have the opportunity to stay for 3 years. We have I think a 98% retention rate, that people stay for as long as they can. And then once they graduate out, we actually have a network of alums that is in partnership with the Jewish Women's Archives Rising Voices Teen Feminist Leadership Program, where we provide skills training and professional networking opportunities, social opportunities, again, all part of this pipeline. So, we feel very deeply that it doesn't end, this kind of support and mentorship that these young people require doesn't end when they graduate from high school. So we maintain it, and it's really incredible. We have, young people. We have not so young, less young people now from our first, who graduated in 2017, who are still deeply involved in the organization and who, show up to lead workshops and to talk to people who are considering and who are out there also, helping us get the word out about it. So we have a very, it's more than loyalty. We've really built a community that is, now as we grow and as we grow older, that really is becoming intergenerational just within our graduates. It's very exciting.
2 things. So it's really it's high school girls, not college.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. And do you publicize through all 3 movements, 4, really 5 movements, whatever we have in Judaism?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. We have relationships. We actually, it's one of the things that we look for. We're very, very invested in having a diverse editorial and photography board, because we want first of all, we want to represent, what an incredibly glorious mosaic is our community, right? And so we want that represented in our pages, and in order for it to be accurately and adequately represented in our pages, those voices have to be represented in our edit room. And also this idea of, as young people are finding their identities, to be able to meet people who are living their Jewish lives differently. So we very purposefully look to bring in denominational diversity into our editorial board, and we also have relationships with all of the youth groups and all of the different movements. Yeah. And one other thing that I don't want to forget to say is that I hope you visit our website, but also, this is so exciting, I still can't believe it. We have an anthology coming out in August, published by Berman House, which is located in New Jersey, of approximately 80 works by our young people that I'm so excited to be able to, really, for people to be able to hold in their hands this incredible art and writing that our young people have presented. It also is mission aligned in that it is another way to amplify the voices. Carol, your question reminded me of it, because we have the blurbs at the beginning that say, essentially, this is a great book, buy it. I made sure to include representatives from all of the denominations, which it's fabulous to have all of this diversity of perspective on what it means to live Jewishly, to be excited about the book coming out. It's called Salt and Honey. I'll make sure that Pam has the information when it comes out. So please look out for that as well.
Hey.
Any other questions?
It's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
for coming out.
you. Thank you. And Pam, I hope you share my contact information as well. It's also on our website. But if anybody has any follow-up questions or wants to know more about the organization or wants some, curated content, I can send you, let me know what you're interested in. I can direct you to some pieces that might be interested. But I do encourage you to really explore, because the young people are fabulous, and what they're producing is really, really phenomenal. And I hope that you enjoy it and learn from it and share it. And thank you all so much for your interest and your time.
And you're very mission aligned to us.
Okay, we're going to sign off in just a minute, but I felt that we couldn't end this meeting without saying something about the conflict in the Ukraine. And so you've seen all the images, right? This was in the New York Times on Saturday, of women and children, oops, fleeing and running across train tracks when they heard that another train was coming in so they could escape the Ukraine. Here was one of the more uplifting images
Oh,
that came
yeah.
across
I
my
saw that.
Facebook feed. It might have come across yours too. A beautiful photo of Polish moms leaving strollers at a train station for Ukrainian moms. I wanted to end on a more uplifting photo and not show you the true horrors of war, but we all know that it's a horrible situation, and all we can do is pray, Oseh Shalom b'mamav, hu yaseh shalom, alinu v'kol Yisrael v'imru amen, that we pray the one who makes peace in the heavens will make peace for us and for all Israel. Amen. And I'm sharing with you in the chat that a few days ago, Federation put all of its resources together in one place, and it now has a Ukraine page. And just so you know that if you go there to donate, your money is being given to the JDC, the Joint Distribution Committee, I believe ORT, and the Jewish Agency.
And
We-
Hillel too, I think.
Sorry?
Hillel.
No, not Hillel. It's those three main agencies that are the ones that are doing the bulk of the distribution. Tomorrow, when I send out that link to the YouTube video, that was the webinar about women and girls in the Ukraine, you'll also get a link there to an organization called Kesher, which has been supporting women and girls specifically in the Ukraine. Though you'll also hear on the webinar that she is encouraging you to give money through Federation or JDC or Jewish Agency, because those are really the big players right now in the Ukraine. So anyone who's interested in donating to that cause. And with that, I thank you all for coming. It's been great to see you, and next time maybe in person.